Thanks for staying with us on SABC News. Now, PetroSA, South Africa's national oil company, and they're owned by the Central Energy Fund. Their mandate is to, among other things, unlock and realize commercial value from the national hydrocarbon endowment and to also enable and supply competitive, efficient South African energy while ensuring energy security of supply. The acting CEO Sandisiwe Ncemane joins me now. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News this afternoon. How would you describe the state of PetroSA at the moment?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on your show. I've got to say the last 18 months have been incredibly busy for PetroSA to ensure that we are indeed renewing our positioning in the energy sector, ensuring that we are relevant and delivering to the mandate that we hold that addresses the security of supply for the country. And of course, as we look at the continental linkages, to ensure that we are also delivering value with the various partners that we've identified.
Mm-hmm. So then how safe is our fuel supply at the moment, and what are the implications of a limited fuel supply? I've seen other interviews or heard other interviews that you've done where you spoke about the challenges around that.
Sure. There's a slight echo, but let me try and address the areas I've heard you touch on. For PetroSA, of course, we have had to look at our strategy and identify how the short to medium term really assists us deliver on the longer term strategy of the organization, which in itself is to ensure that we are relevant also in the context of the evolving energy sector and the need to demonstrate responsibility as well as we look at the aspects around climate change, while also realizing value from the indigenous resources we hold. And in particular, in that context, I'm referring to the value that the natural gas resource that the southern African region holds would yield for growing our economy. Mm-hmm. And realizing value not just in terms of the upstream component, but how that delivers through infrastructure in the context of power generation, refining, as well as growing the downstream business and fueling the economy through industry. I think additional to that, we've of course realized that in the immediate term, we need to stabilize the organization. And in stabilizing the organization, we've realized that the downstream business is really where the strength would lie and would need to bolster that capability. So in the last 18 months for PetroSA, it's been to stabilize the organization, ensure we are building the right kind of teams, bring in the right leadership, and ensuring that the initiatives we're driving are translating to actual implementation and creating the volumes and the margins that we need to see sustainability in the organization.
Yeah, when you speak of margins, it makes me think of the concern around the role of PetroSA in supplying fuel to Eskom. It's been said that you're charging exorbitant prices for diesel there, which has an impact on all of us. And then also your role in the aviation space as well. So as you're evolving, can you just talk me through those two concerns that have been raised about PetroSA?
Sure. And again, hoping I've understood the heart of the question, which is effectively the role we are playing in ensuring that we are supporting and supplying the sectors, both in terms of electricity as well as the aviation sector.
No, my concern, sorry. My apologies for interjecting. My question is around the concerns of how that's being done. So the allegation is that Eskom, you are charging them too much for the fuel that you supply to them. And in the aviation space as well, allegations that perhaps you may have muscled out some of the private sector players in order to grow your role there. So I just wanted to speak about the concerns thereof.
Yeah, the line is quite bad, but let me try and succinctly address what I've understood. On the first part relating to the claims of overcharging, I do believe that PetroSA has gone on quite an active drive from as early as February this year, where we sought to build awareness around how the diesel as well as the supply market works and the various players from upstream that would be involved in that, and really how the pricing is factored. And I think in us unpacking that, we really sought to demystify the view of overcharging. And I think it comes back to the importance of forecasting and the significance of that information in assisting us optimize how we source product. I think I want to assure you that between PetroSA and Eskom, we have found strong alignment in that regard. And I really think that the view that we're overcharging Eskom really needs to be tested. And again, I assure you the collaboration between these two entities is again a testament of the value that state-owned entities are able to realize.
Mm-hmm.
On the second point that you're raising, I do think we probably need to unpack it further as to what is giving rise to those particular views. And then I think it would allow us to build greater context. What is important to share is that, again, security of supply becomes an important component that as a state entity we need to deliver to. Now, the shifting landscape that we are operating in, affected by both the global as well as local factors, would need to be taken into consideration. Where the industry is finding value and where they are moving into also creates the requirement and the opportunity for PetroSA to then expand its product offering and services into spaces such as the aviation sector. Additional to that, I think, is the drive around the transition to more sustainable aviation fuels, a space which PetroSA has also sought to invest through in terms of the research and innovation work that we're doing, where we've also looked at how biofuels as well as biojet solutions could start to become part of the offering when we look at the future energy mix we're driving towards. Now, we are working with various partners on the aviation front to ensure that from a capacity and continuity perspective, we are bolstering that. We started working in some of the airports in the Southern Cape region as well as in the Eastern Cape. And I think through that, we are building the capacity. We are also ensuring stronger relationship and community channels with all the various players in that ecosystem.
All right, we don't have much more time left, but you've raised the local and global factors, and I want to know how those affect your operations at PetroSA and what you're doing beyond our South African borders.
Absolutely. And as I had mentioned, PetroSA's positioning is seeking to be relevant beyond just the South African market. And that's already demonstrated through the assets that we hold through our PetroSA Ghana Limited arm in Ghana, where we have a share in a joint venture operation of the Jubilee fields. And I think earlier this month, there's quite some positive release around the additional capability and resources that are being realized through that investment. I think that's but one example that I want to share. Additional to that, as part of our downstream strategy, we've also sought to expand our international business portfolio to look at how we partner and collaborate in these various countries in the southern region, NAMCO being part of the partners we are engaging with, as well as the Mozambican counterparts. Quite recently, we've also sought to activate and strengthen our participation through various platforms across the continent, one of them being a recent celebration around Africa Integration Day, which is linked to the African Union calendar.
All right.
And we said even in that platform that we are committed to partnerships across various opportunities on the continent.
My apologies for interjecting. We have run out of time. I can hear in the director's room we have run out of time. Really appreciate your time. Acting CEO of PetroSA, Sandisiwe Ncemane, joining me there, talking about the operations, the challenges and what they're doing beyond our borders.